All right, Garrett Blevins here with Form Assessment Saturday number 3. And if I did in fact schedule this correctly, it is coming out on Saturday. We'll see if that actually works. In any case, we're going to hop in with some lifters. I had some people submit multiple videos, and so initially I should have mentioned just kind of submit one at a time so I can get through as many people as possible. But since I didn't do that and people have gone to the trouble of sending multiple videos, I'm going to put them all in here since I think there's some things to say about each of these. But in the future, for those of you submitting, make sure you just submit maybe one attempt, only so I can get through as many people as possible. All right, coming in with bench press here. Looks real solid. I think maybe the only thing you could do is get a little bit closer to the bench when you're unracking it. Seems like you're a little far away from the bench, but do a great job of keeping your elbows under your wrists, keeping a tight arch through the whole lift. Not much to say there. So good job on the bench, Chris. I think you're moving the right direction. The more repetition work you do, the stronger you're going to get with this because you're going to be repeating those repetitions with the correct range of motion. Looks real solid. I'm also super jealous of the Ivanko plates that you're using, just so you know. All right, Chris also submitted another video. I think we're going to have a little bit more to say on this one. Move this up to the top. So I believe this is going to be a starting position issue. So you're starting with this bit of a round in your back, and you mentioned in your email that you have a lot of trouble getting into extension. That's something you're going to need to work on if the sumo is going to be your strongest competition lift. Right now, if you could just extend this lower back a little bit and get your shoulders just a little bit further back, this is going to be such a stronger position to pull from. Right here, you're using a ton of back. I don't know if you conventional pull in competition. If you did, it wouldn't surprise me because you're going to be utilizing a lot of back here in this pull. But yeah, you've got to loosen up that lower back and get to the place where you can get a little bit more extension here. Bryce Krawczyk, another, I believe you're both Canadians, will preach that same thing, and he's absolutely right. What I will say is I understand your pain here because I have the exact same issue, and I have found that sometimes wearing a belt actually makes it harder for me to get into that position. Now, that's all this said, it's not crazy rounded or anything, but I am interested to see if you tilt forward as you start to break the floor. Pull this back just a little bit. Looks pretty solid. The only slowing that shows up from the start position, a lot of times when you hit this and you have that round, people will get pulled over the top. That's not your issue. But where you get hit is right here. It slows your lockout down a little bit. It doesn't show up dramatically on this set, but it will make that lockout harder when you have that round. Now, yeah. And it could lead to some back pain because you have rounding really through your mid-back. And you're just stressing that a lot. You're taking a little bit of your quads out of the equation and putting in more back. So again, that's something to work on. Really the only way to do that is to mash, stretch, and mobilize, and have a regimen that you do, I would say, 2 or 3 times a week where you do that consistently to open it up. This isn't something you're going to be able to do 10 hours of mobility work and solve this problem. This is going to be something you're going to have to work on for an extended period of time to get yourself into a better position, and you're going to have to be consistent with the work. So I would advise doing a little bit maybe before you do sumo deadlifts and then after as well. In this freeze frame, it's kind of blurry actually, but this is actually the back position I would like to see you in the start of the deadlift. So I know you're just setting the weight down, but then you immediately go back into that round. But this position here that you start to get to as you go through the lift is a much better position than the start position you have here because of that round through that low to mid-back, which is just going to make the lift harder and more taxing overall. So that's what you need to work on. All right, moving forward, we've got Connor here with a squat. Check this out. Really would like to get this bar out of the way. That's probably best. All right, Connor. So one of the things that I'm seeing here is depth is one of your issues. You might try wearing your belt just a little bit higher, But basically, one of the issues you're having here is you're kind of running into yourself in your hip. And I would really like to see you get a little bit lower. I think it was more pronounced on the first rep. Because if the top of your knee is here and we kind of draw this line back, I think you're high probably by about an inch here. It's close, but it's not all the way down. And beyond that, you get tilted forward a little bit as you try to reverse the weight here. If you went a little deeper and squashed this hamstring into this calf here, you would have a much better squeeze and push out of the bottom and may be able to maintain a more upright spine because your hips shoot back almost immediately and you get into this real flat back position. That said, if you can hold this bar just a little bit lower, you may benefit from this if your back is your strongest point and your body's defaulting to that. Holding the bar just a little bit lower might actually be beneficial because that first rep was misgrooved pretty hard on the way out. Second rep is a little bit deeper, but that same issue with getting bent over. And I think part of that might be wearing your belt a little tight, man. As I look at you when you take in your air, I see a lot of air expand out of the front of your chest, but I'm not seeing a lot come in actually to the belt. It seems to be a pretty high breath. You really want to be expanding in 360 degrees when you're taking in that breath at the top. Check out, just go to YouTube and type in 90-90 breathing drills and look for the Quinn Hinnock video on 90-90 breathing drills. I think that will help both with losing positioning out of the bottom and some of the loss of mid-back tightness that you're having. Additionally, something to work on could be pause squats, high bar pause squats especially, or high bar tempo squats that force you to maintain that upright torso angle. All right, get this video a little bit smaller maybe. Is this as small as it's going to let? All right, that is as small as it's going to let me make it. So hopefully you all can see this. His feet are kind of cut off here. I can see them, but you cannot. Liking the shoes, man. Love those shoes. Walkout solid. Positioning here looks solid. The one thing I'm going to be looking for is when you take in a breath, I want to see a little bit more expansion here and here on both sides of the belt. A little bit more breath up into your chest than down here. There's a little bit of expansion deep, but I really want to make sure you're getting that deep breath. Excellent squat, especially for a heavy single. This looks very good. Depth is there, top of the knee to the crease. This is right at depth or slightly below. I think only in the strictest and craziest of judging would anybody question this. To me, this looks good. You keep that bar right over midfoot throughout the entire rep. You maintain your torso angle. Great squat. I really don't have much to say. Very impressive. Good work on that single. To demonstrate that strength with a high percentage of 1 rep max like that is very impressive. You're doing very well. Very technical lifting. All right. And here we go for the final person. There's 3 YouTube videos in here, so we'll watch all 3 of these. I'm going to go a little quicker since we're going to be doing all 3, and there are some similar issues. Now, your depth is good on this first rep. I think your first rep looks better than any of the other ones. You start off good, but then as you're standing here, you got soft knees, so I want you to start standing all the way up when you squat. Like, see where your knees were right there? Right here. Nope, too far. Still too far. There we go. Right there. This is kind of your starting position for the squat. You have a better torso angle here. You're actually neutral, and you've got your knees locked. The weight is a little forward right there because you got forward on that second rep. You kind of dive bombed it in a little bit further. This right here is a really good starting position for where you should get to in between all your squats. However, you consistently pull your elbows under, you round your upper back, and that creates some looseness where you're collapsing your chest here too, that kind of everything is kind of leaning forward. And that shows up on the rest of these squats. I'll just let this play through. But as you have this rounding that you've set up kind of in between your squats, this leads to some forward motion where the bar is getting out over your toes. Also, it's an extremely light weight because you jump squatted it. So I would like to see better control with that weight. It's going to be really easy to launch the weight up that last third of your squat, so don't overly exaggerate that. I want you to have a consistent speed throughout your entire squat. Doing some high bar tempo squats with no rest at the top of the lift except for maybe a little breath in and then going right into the next rep might be good for you to learn how to maintain that tight neutral spine, because the first rep of that set by far was the best rep. All right, so on to the bench. One of the things I'm noticing, there's going to be in this set a lot of back and forth with this bar, and I would like to see you control the weight a little bit more. That's going to come with the more experience you have from lifting. Your elbow to wrist positioning is okay, but it looks like you should touch maybe a little bit lower, or you should flare your elbows a little bit more. In this position right here, it's the same idea as a skull crusher. So in a skull crusher, obviously the bar would be much further back, but your elbow would be, from this camera angle, your elbow would be to the right, out in front of your wrist. Really what we want to see is the wrist positioned over the top of the elbow. So if you want to keep touching here, which is not a bad place to do so, this elbow should be flared out just a little bit more. I mean, we're talking like half an inch or maybe 3/4 of an inch difference here. I don't want you bringing your elbow all the way out to the side like a 90-degree angle from your torso or anything, but I would like to see that elbow a little bit more under the wrist. I also want to make sure that you're locking out your elbows in between each of these reps. It looks like you might be a little soft, and again there you see that back and forth. I think some of that's coming because your wrist is not over that elbow, which is creating a little bit of instability. Also, something to watch for is make sure your butt is not coming off the bench. As you see here, it gets close and maybe does leave. It's close, so be aware of that as you're lifting. Make sure the butt's on the bench and work on that elbow to wrist positioning. Now, you're doing a decent job at it. You're trying to get that extension through the lift, but this in your mid-back I think is a little exaggerated. I would like to see a little bit less here and a little bit more here. You kind of got this round and then arch. So I want you to start feeling your lower back and getting a little bit more extension there and a little less extension in your mid-back. Also, I want to see you get your shoulder, this part of your shoulder, directly over the bar. So to do this, just take everything back a little bit. Just pretend like you were going to fall over onto your butt when you grab the weight, and just pretend like you're going to fall over until that weight starts leaving the floor. That's going to allow you to use the leverage of your body to actually break the floor with the bar. Because you're a little bit out in front of the bar right here. And part of that's going to have to loosen up your hips. So there's really a couple things. Mobilize your hips, work on extending the lower back and not just the mid-back, and get your shoulders positioned directly over the bar before starting the pull. You're using light weights as you're learning how to do these lifts. I can tell that you're strong enough to really handle these weights well. You're set up for some PRs real soon with the way you're handling 85 and 95% and these sorts of things. So you're definitely getting stronger, but continue as you are to work on form and make sure you're dialing in those starting positions. Also make sure that you're maintaining tightness throughout the lift. That's going to be something that's important for you, and as a newer lifter, that's going to be something that's going to take a little while to learn how to do. One of the ways that you can establish tightness is by gripping the bar as tight as possible. That's something you can use for all three of the lifts, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. So, not much more. I think your last rep there was probably your best rep as far as positioning goes. See how this next one goes, and then we'll... I think this is the last one. Yeah, this should be the last one. Yeah, you kind of got in better positions as you went through the set. Started pulling that lower back into a better position. So keep working on it, and I'm sure you're going to be lifting some real big numbers here soon. In any case, that's Form Assessment Saturday number 3. Hope you enjoyed, appreciated, and learned from that. And wherever you're at, hope you're doing well. Blessings.